Welcome to Distracted, the podcast with Angela Lockwood, the place where you will find practical brain-boosting strategies, expert insights, and real-life stories to help busy brains thrive in the age of distraction. Let's go. Welcome to Distracted. I'm Angela Lockwood, and today I bring you an expert in her field, which I'm always really excited about because, as you know, the content I provide is so much about adding value to you, my listener. But I do have to admit, sometimes there is a selfish element to it because I want to know this stuff as much as you do. So that's why I bring these wonderful experts in who have got so much experience and lived experience and have worked with people like yourselves to bring current information so you don't have to go online and Google it. You can go straight to the source. And today is definitely one of those guests. And I'm joined today by Filipa Bellette. And I love Filipa's background. If you go to her website, chrisandphilly.fm, you will see such a background and wealth of experience in her field. She is a clinical nutritionist, a functional medical practitioner, and a PhD scholar. She is also an author, which we will definitely unpack over this interview, called the Ending Body Burnout book. Let me just say that again, because I know everyone just pulled over to the side of the road or stopped what they were doing. The Ending Body Burnout book. I have so many questions, but welcome to Distraction, Filipa.
Thank you so much, Angela. I'm very excited to be here.
And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, you will see this beautiful purple that Philly has on and in her background. And it's just such a beautiful energy. And I know we will touch on energy in this conversation as well. But I'm just going to start straight from the top, Philly, that I would guarantee that you totally practice what you preach.
Yes, definitely. What I do in my practice has definitely been a birthing of my own body burnout experiences, and I had, I'd say, three big episodes, and every time I burnt out, I had to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the root cause of why I was getting burnt out and what was going on inside my body, and also why the heck I kept dropping back into the hole again. So really digging into the patterns and programming that I had, which was all around perfectionism and overdoing and high achieving. And yeah, as much as I tried to live a healthy lifestyle, I couldn't out-sup or out-diet those patterns.
I just heard so many key words in there that I would imagine if we put into SEO, it would capture so many people who are wanting to know more information: burnout, overwhelm, going repeated patterns of behavior. So let's jump into all of that. And I will refer to the book because it's an amazing book, the Ending Body Burnout book. And you do talk a lot around different elements and different practices, but there's right at the beginning, there's a big focus on, and I guess the tagline is a functional medicine guide for busy women with energy, mood, and gut issues. Now, we have to talk about this concept of busy because if we don't, I think it's the big elephant in the room. What really is busy, and how come busy affects our health so much?
So when we talk about busy on the book, on our podcast, it's in inverted commas because, busy is not necessarily bad to do things, but I think about busy when nothing's bad until it is. So busy can show up as those perfectionism type patterns, people pleasing, rescuing others. Your cup is empty. You don't have anything left to fill up anyone else's, but you continue to do that. Overworking, addictive type patterns, especially around work and helping other people, but not yourself. And so busy is overwhelm. Busy is hacking your schedule and your mind and your system to such a capacity that your body systems literally start burning out. Your health literally starts burning out. And it's very cultural. You walk down the street and someone bumps into you. They're like, "Hey, how you going? You look like you've been really busy." And it's like, yeah, we're wearing busy as a badge of honor, and it's just perpetuating insidiously in our culture. And a lot of people aren't aware that they're just following the patterns.
I just had a thought, really, when you think if somebody says, "Hey, you look like you're busy," it's probably not that big a compliment, is it really? It's like, "Hey, you look tired, you look unwell."
Well, it's not, but I get that comment still because people see me. So it might be like old friends or family members who I haven't seen or spoken for a while, but they know me through social media. or they're listening to my podcast and, they're seeing us win awards and like launch programs and all that sort of stuff and the book. And so they see that as like, wow, you must be really busy to be able to achieve and to have success. And so I try and pattern interrupt their question that I'm like, oh, I'm kind of just like, yeah, my week this week has been pretty chill. Like, yeah, I'm getting things done. But I'm in alignment. I'm balanced. And it's really weird because their response to that, they don't know what to say. They're like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So why do you think people would assume that somebody like yourself, and you mentioned you're a multi-award winner, author, very successful practice, run so many, wonderful online programs, which we actually will talk about a little bit later as well. Why do you think there's an assumption that, wow, you must be busy?
I feel like for people, there's this belief, cultural generalization, stereotypical belief that in order to be successful, you have to be burning yourself out and working really hard and working lots of hours and putting yourself out there and taking risks. And look, to be honest, I used to run those patterns, and that's probably how I started getting awards and all those sorts of things. And, I achieved a lot, but my body got to a point where it's like, we can't keep doing this at all anymore. And then my capacity got really low and I couldn't actually do the things. And so a lot of people do get success by burning themselves out. Like there's millionaires, billionaires that are successful, but they're like burnt out and they're unhealthy and they're imbalanced and out of alignment. And not a lot of people have reached the point or the understanding that you can be successful and have balance.
Mm.
And
One
have
of the
peace
frustrations
and
for
calm.
me when I see Philly with a lot of these people who have found whatever success looks like for them, that they only ever share their strategies of mindfulness and health and well-being after they've hit those sort of milestones of success, and what that looks like for them. Very rarely do we hear about those struggles along the way that they have until after. And I guess that's the gift of hindsight, isn't it? That, now they can say, well, actually, I really struggled. I actually had this experience recently in another interview I had here on Distracted with Dr. Tim Sharp, who is the founder of the Happiness Institute here in Australia. And he talked about his story that there was probably times he could have been called Dr. Unhappy. And it's not, to us, he was the founder of, the happiness research here in Australia. But his latest book, Lost and Found, was very much around how that wasn't the truth. That wasn't actually, he wasn't always happy. He really struggled. So I'd love, how can we, I guess, learn along the way without having to go through the hardship of being busy and being unwell? How can we learn along the way so that we don't have to hit that burnout point?
It's such a good question because I feel like people don't have enough pain until they have pain to then make the changes. So I'll give you an example of what I did. I mean, like I did a lot of physical healing, and we'll probably get into the body systems and gut health and all that sort of stuff. But even then, that wasn't enough to unravel the deeper programmings and patterns that I had. So I ended up working with a coach specifically on getting to the root of my insecurities. And when I joined him, when I reached out to him, I actually thought, I'm like, I don't think I'm insecure, but I know that my body is screaming at me. And I'm a health practitioner. I know so much, but I'm struggling to unravel these patterns. And on the outside, from a business point of view, it looked like we were successful. So we won the Telstra Best of Business Awards. At that point, we were building things, but my way of working was driven from a place of fear, which is exhausting. A lot of prove and defend, a lot of hiding the fact that, like, deep down inside, it was very hidden, but I believed that I was weak and incapable. So working on that deeper stuff helped me in this transition period to step back from doing so much and practice being and just trusting the process that, okay, if I am being the woman who is balanced and healthy and it's safe to be slow and it's safe to chill out and it's safe to take time out and it's safe to look at my children in the eyes and not feel like I have to multitask everything, what will happen? Now, I was really scared because I really thought that if I slowed down, we would go bankrupt. And at that point too, the funny thing was, although we on the outside we look successful, there were some weeks and months we weren't paying ourselves a wage because we weren't actually making a lot of money, even though I was working like a maniac. But it was from a place of fear and force, and that manifested also in my conversations with prospects and clients. And so, it was hard to get the momentum. But the transition period where I started slowing down and practicing really being and really working on deeper self-limiting beliefs around being weak and incapable, I just said, I surrender. Like, I literally surrender. I'm going to trust that this will work. And you know what? The worst thing that will happen is that there might be 6 months where we don't pay ourselves a wage, but that's okay. We've got savings. We can pull it from the house, from the mortgage. It's okay. So I created safety that I'm going to try this experiment and it's going to be okay. I'm going to be safe. And then the interesting thing was we started making more money by doing less. It was just like, it felt like magic, but literally like all of a sudden I'm looking at our profit and loss and I'm like, how are we making $10,000 more this month and the next month and the next month? And it's just built on from there too. So I don't know if that really answers your question. It's a big question, but that's how I got to the point where I'm like, oh, so you can actually be chill and prosper.
Yeah. It's interesting, Philly, because when I was listening to you, so many questions. I think I got 30 more questions came into my head. I'm like, okay, so tell me about this and tell me that. But really, in essence, what I hear is a lot of what came up for you was a very coming from a very emotive place. So it was a very emotion based. You were talking about fear a lot, and what I see a lot with my clients is the busyness almost becomes safe. That the busyness, even though the body is not feeling safe at all, but it feels safer than surrendering.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested when we do surrender, I know a lot of, particularly in a very impatient world where we want things to happen quickly and we want things to be fast and now. And if I just drive and I do my 5-point plan, then which is one of the things that I really have had to overcome over my life. I've written a book called Switch Off. That was definitely a personal and a professional journey, that one. But what I'm interested in is that surrendering. How do we, show up in a space where when we are feeling so busy, so entrenched, so almost chaotic from a physical point of view, but also an emotive point of view, how do you surrender without feeling like you're giving up?
Okay. So surrender is probably another word I would use for that would be self-permission. And there's a lot of different definitions of that. Some people feel like, oh, I just give myself permission to go to the beach today and I'm not going to work at all. Doesn't quite work. Maybe it might for someone, but deep self-permission, which ties into surrendering, is it can only come from the unconscious mind, not your conscious mind. So you can't logic or reason yourself to surrender. It must come from the unconscious. And it will only come when it's safe to succeed in whatever you choose to do, when it's safe. So the unconscious mind holds so much information, including your unconscious core beliefs. So when you have empowering beliefs and you've been able to identify deeper dysfunctional ones that are stopping you from getting you what you want, and you can reprogram those, then all of a sudden, like, it's safe to be you. It's safe to be in your body. It's safe to be in the world. It's safe to do whatever you want to do, because also if you fail, it doesn't mean anything about you. It's just a learning. Like, it's safe to fail or failure. It's not failure, it's feedback. And so then the energy changes, and that's what I felt too. So surrender comes when it's like it's safe to be you.
Yeah. It's really interesting. We recently obviously had the Olympics, and one of the things that I really stood out for me during watching the Olympics, I just absolutely love all of it. but was how open people were. These top athletes who are so aware of their bodies, who are used to focusing on their bodies and being the most elite level that you can think of, talking about how if they didn't get gold, what that felt like for them in a really open platform. They were talking and really being extremely vulnerable, but I don't ever want to use the word vulnerable, actually. It's more about being really honest about, hey, that was really tough for me, but I've learned this about myself, which I think just shows how far we're becoming more aware of who we are and our place in the world. And let's talk a little bit about that physical side of things, because I feel like I could turn this into a psychological session here.
Yeah.
Let's go body, because one of the things that often we see turn up is the physical manifestations of burnout or the physical manifestations of being really busy. What are some of those things that people should keep an eye out for, that their body might be tipping into a danger zone?
Yeah. I love your question too, and I'll answer that. What I love about the question is sometimes, like, if someone is stuck in busy patterns and you're just pushing through and you're forcing and there's, fear involved and overwhelm and stress, is that the body speaks to us, or going back to the unconscious mind. So everything's connected. So the mind and body, the nervous system, the neural pathways, everything is connected and they're all working together for your best interest. So when you start showing up with physical symptoms, that is a beautiful message, first and foremost, from your unconscious mind and your nervous system, that currently you don't feel safe. There's something unsafe about the way that you are being, and we need to change. And people listen to pain most of the time. Pain is very good at getting our attention. So the big symptoms that we see in our practice when it comes to body burnout would be energy, mood, and gut issues. So energy would look like, and there's spectrums too. So the early signs would be, I'm not waking up as sprightly as I used to, or I'm kind of crashing in the afternoon, or it's 7:00 and I need to go to bed at the same time as the kids. And then on the other spectrum of that would be full-blown chronic fatigue, where you're dropping down your hours, where you have to outsource a lot more stuff because your capacity is just not doing well. But energy issues might also look like brain fog. So you talk about distraction, and brain fog is a very big part of that, where it's just like, I can't remember anything, or I feel like I'm swimming through a cloud. Insomnia, sleep issues are going to impact energy levels. And then mood issues, again, could be full-blown anxiety, depression, or it might be earlier signs of irritability, snappiness, not responding to stresses, especially those small ones like you used to. So resilience is dropping. That can also show up as, especially for females, hormonal moodiness as well. So all of a sudden it's like you're leading up to your period and you're dragon mum, or you're now in perimenopause stage and it's like, far out, I don't even know what's going on with my emotions. I'm like happy one day and then I'm sad the next. And that is a sign that is not normal. First of all, like, a lot of people think that to transition into menopause, we must have symptoms, but actually you should just stop bleeding and your cycle should just become irregular and you stop bleeding. So if you're noticing like hormonal stuff popping up, then that is a sign that there's body burnout. And then the third one, so we hear the term burnout a lot, especially in the workplace and in business. A symptom that people don't talk about that we do in our practice is gut issues, because burnout is essentially you've been stuck in fight flight for too long. And when your system is in fight flight, your organs switch off. And the first one that switches off most of the time is the digestive tract. So a lot of people can start developing gut issues. So bloating, constipation, diarrhea, heartburn, food sensitivities is a really big one. Or sometimes people don't have gut symptoms, but they have a lot of gut issues that are impacting their mental health and their physical health.
I can remember a few years ago, I went down the track of the medical route, I guess, I noticed I had the bloating, I had, a lot of gut feelings, I had, itchy hands, I had all of that. And I thought, I must be allergic to something, I have to be, there must be something. And I went and had all the allergy tests, my arms were pricked with everything that you can imagine. I had it. Anyway, guess what came up? Only dust. And I was like,
Yep.
no, this must be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, there has to be something going on in my system that is causing this, and it had to be something that I could fix quickly. If I just eliminate that out of my diet or out of my life, then I'd be fine. And what kickstarted that process, and what followed after that is a whole lot of other stuff that was not about having an allergy to something. So I'm totally with you. I think a lot of people have their own stories, don't they, Philly, around, there were points in their life where they felt those things and they either ignored it or they tried to address it in a different way. But if anyone was listening to that, because I felt like I could have written a checklist then and given it to our listeners and gone, all right, go through and tick the box. And I'm sure I think you have one of these on your website or in lots of different resources. People tick the box. Tell me, does any of this show up for you? I reckon a lot of women would tick every single box.
Yeah.
So what's your suggestion for people that are going, oh my gosh, that was me. She literally just described me. What should they do right now? Like, what is their moment of either action or even inaction?
Yeah. So you can't have symptoms without there being some sort of body system imbalance. So we're always looking at, when I say we, by the way, I'm also talking about my husband who is a co-founder in our practice. So you can't have symptoms without there being some sort of physical imbalance. So first step, I would recommend, if someone's feeling really stuck too, I mean, if it's kind of like, acute, or it hasn't been going on for too bad, or those symptoms are mild, then there could be some simple lifestyle changes that you could make that could make a world of difference. Like cut out the processed sugar and the processed food, and maybe drop the caffeine content or the nightly wines. That sort of stuff can make a big difference. But if you have a listener who is like, I've tried a bunch of stuff, or I'm just, my capacity is so low that like I know what I need to be doing, but I struggle. I can't. It's too hard. Then this would be the process. So get clear on where your body systems are at. And the body systems that we test for in our functional medicine practice go beyond what GPs and medical specialists test for. Great to get a workup with your GP first and foremost, but what a lot of people find is their bloods come back, they're fine, but they don't feel fine. And so then they're like, often they get the message that maybe it's just all in your head, or you're just a mom, or it's just work. Everyone's stressed these days. Just stop stressing. That is not a great solution. So to go a bit deeper, looking into the body system. So we look at the neuroendocrine system, the gut, the GI system, and the detox pathways. And we test for things like adrenals, adrenal fatigue, neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline. Those two in particular, it's actually very rare to have a client where one, if not both of those, are burnt out, because they're parts of the body that are secreting your stress hormones. And when you've been burning the candle at both ends for too long, those body systems very quickly start burning out, which then can exacerbate the busy patterns and the overwhelm and the stress, and it will also show up physically in the body. Then, as I mentioned before, is there something going on in the gut? Especially if you have gut symptoms, there might be parasites, there might be candida infections, there might be something called leaky gut, which is really inflammatory. Or have you got something going on in your detox pathways? So are you not clearing heavy metals and environmental toxins from your body very effectively? If that happens, those toxins get stuck in fat tissues, and that's a massive source of stress and inflammation that is just exacerbating your whole system. And so the further that these body systems burn out, the more symptomatic people become. And then it can be really hard to crawl out of the hole of doing the things to be healthy, or it can really impact and make worse thought patterns as well, whether it's low motivation, can't be bothered, it's too hard, or health anxiety, hyperfixation, or even addictive type patterns with working.
It sounds like there's a lot that is covered through functional medicine. But why do you think that people, I guess, still look at there's nothing wrong with me, so therefore there mustn't be anything wrong with me through the medical route? Like you hear so many people, and you touched on that, they get a blood test, come back, and it's all fine. But they know that they're not fine. They know that. Why do you think people stop at that point?
I feel like there's probably two reasons. One reason might be that they haven't got any other resources yet. And so, I mean, if this is someone's listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a deeper way that I can look into my body, then that can be the light bulb moment that would take them to the next step to actually investigate further beyond the medical system. So sometimes it's just lack of knowledge and lack of awareness of what else is out there. And then the other one would be a deep trust that the medical system is the be all and end all, but using that as a little bit of a cop out too. So it's like, yeah, the doctor who knows the things said I'm okay, so I guess I'll continue living the way that I am. I'm pretty healthy, even though I'm in a lot of pain. So it's almost like the ostrich that puts her head underneath the sand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes that can be easier too. So the nervous system hates change. So although the pain might be there and it's like, okay, there's pain enough that I'm going to visit the GP, but it's like, there's nothing wrong. Or maybe it might be a little bit of a quick fix, like, oh, I'll just take this medication. That'll solve your heartburn, or maybe take an antidepressant that'll solve your anxiety. And, that also might help. It's not getting to the root, but it feels easier. It's like, okay, cool, great. I'm better now. I'm either like managing my symptoms even though I'm not fully well, and that feels safe, or okay, I'll just choose to believe what the GP and those blood tests said, that I'm fine, because then therefore I don't need to take any further responsibility for my health because it's too hard.
So true. I can remember my father-in-law when he was alive, that he would go to a doctor and with something happening, and then all they would do is add another medication on, and he ended up coming. He basically rattled when he walked. He had that many medications in him, and I often thought, of course, there's a big duty of care with wellness. I think in the medical industry, that it's not just about being free of disease, is it? Our health. It's actually about living a very healthy, rounded life, not just physically, socially, mentally, psychology, everything. Psychologically, sorry. Can I ask you the integration of all of that? So, in the people, I've got so many questions for you, but if we were to really look at, say, if people are looking for wellness in their life and they're feeling that things are out of alignment, and I guess particularly for women, at sort of, women who are extremely busy, juggling a lot of different things. Wellness, how do people become well? How do people, they're at this stage and they're like, I am so, that classic, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. How can people now start to focus on their wellness without feeling fear, without feeling adding to the overwhelm? Because we hear that a lot. I'm sure you do that. Now I've got to go to gym classes, or now I've got to do mindfulness. Gosh, on top of everything, I've got to do all that now. My question amongst all of that, how can people be focused on health and wellness rather than being free of disease?
Yeah. So our method and the steps that I've listed out in the book, there's 4 steps, and they're very strategically done in this order. So first step is get clear on the body systems. That's really helpful and useful because, one, it can give someone validation for how they feel. And it's very easy to get answers to the body systems. That actually isn't a scary part. It's like, give me some spit, wee, and poo, and maybe some blood. And we can we'll see like a bunch of pieces of your puzzle. And that, especially for someone who has had the narrative and story that your bloods are fine, you're fine, it's all good, just, I don't know, like stop stressing or something. That can feel really nice to be like, okay, yeah, there actually is something going on in my system that is making me feel like this. I'm not just going insane. And then the benefit too of getting clear on the body systems first and foremost is that you can start resetting really specifically for what you need in those body systems, that like within a month people start feeling a bit more energy, a bit more mental clarity, a bit more calm in their mood, less inflamed, and then that gives them the capacity and the momentum to start working on what we would call the deeper root causes. Then step 2 would be, before you even change anything in your life, so before you join that gym class or do like that restrictive diet, it's like, let's start supporting the mind and really going deeper into the unconscious mind. and looking at any baggage and stuckness that is preventing you from being able to heal, or that is literally causing your burnout in the first place. And the way we enter into that is with a little bit of playfulness and no judgment. So you can't have self-awareness when there's judgment. So the moment that someone starts feeling shame or guilt or embarrassment, or even like they start laughing at themselves because they're like, oh, I'm so silly to like have these patterns or these beliefs, then the little gate between the conscious and unconscious mind just closes. So you're starting to look at that either with play, or for some people, it might feel better to look at it clinically, almost in the same way that I would look at someone's lab tests when we get lab tests back on their body systems. No one gets embarrassed or shamed, or they feel shame when they see that there's leaky gut or parasites. They're kind of like maybe a bit irked about the parasites, but most people are like so intrigued and so empowered by that information. So we liken that to when we start doing that deeper inner work, let's do it in that same way. Let's do it with intrigue and curiosity and excitement, because what you don't know, you can't change. When you can name the monster under the bed, and we call that deep unconscious root cause belief, the monster under the bed, then we can do something about it. And then we start doing the reprogramming side of things. But what happens when someone starts supporting their unconscious core beliefs and reprogramming those and clearing past distressing events and trauma and that sort of stuff, is that the natural default is that they want to be healthy and they want to support their body in a way that is healthy. And that's where then people just start eating better, and they start going to sleep on time, and they start moving their body, and they start clearing up their environment from toxins from a place of default and almost natural flow, as opposed to trying to force it and doing it out of fear. It actually comes from a place of love and surrender. Go back to the surrender word.
I love that. I just got this sense of almost giving yourself permission to be healthy rather than trying to sort it all out. And I also love just listening to you. It's shifting the mindset to a one size fits all. That if you jump on Google and you know, what are the top 10 ways, or go into AI or whatever, what are the top 10 ways to get healthy? And they'll give you your 10 prescriptive elements. They're not for you.
Yeah.
And what I love, Philly, about talking to you, there's this really lovely individualized, hey, we've got you. We're here with you for what you need, not this is our one size fits all approach. And yeah, I just thank you so much for that. And I know that you have a program that is just about to open, if not already at the time of this release, but it's Ending Body Burnout Method. Do you just want to tell us a little bit about what that is? And if anything we've talked about today has resonated with people and they're like, give me some of Philly. I want Philly and Chris. Where do I find them? What's that program about?
Yeah, thank you so much. So it's essentially everything we've been talking about. So taking and guiding people through the steps to end their body burnout. And by end their body burnout, because what I found in the natural medicine field and standard functional medicine, where it's all about do the lab test, take the supplements, do the diets, is that, and that's the way I used to practice. And look, it got results, but not long term, because people kept falling down the track of that same old pattern. So Ending Body Burnout Method is like, let's solve this once and for all, so that you can have your spark back, or maybe find it for the very first time in your life, and have energy and productivity and connection, like deep connection with yourself, and trust and love with yourself, which will overflow in other people's lives as well, and your other relationships. And so we're taking people through the process. So where are your body systems at? Let's run some tests. Let's get clear on what you need specifically in order to reset and rebalance and support your body systems. And then a large portion of what we do is really the deep inner mind work. So really getting clear on where are you at now? Let's throw all the dirty laundry out on the table without judgment. It's going to be fun. Look at this. Now we can change. Where did it come from? So going back into the past, and then what do you really want? It's so interesting that when we have a new client and we say, what do you want? And they always say what they don't want. I don't want anxiety. I don't want to feel fatigued, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's very common for people with chronic health issues to constantly focus on what they don't want as a goal for what they do want. So we're then starting to rewire the brain and the nervous system to look for more evidence of what they do want, and then reprogramming the system so that it is now able to heal. It's looking for healing that is already there inside of the person, so becoming their own self-healer, and really deeply shifting those patterns and beliefs, because you can change them. Like, there's so much research around neuroplasticity that we can be whoever we want to be when we can break down neural pathways. And then, and a lot of people who start working with us have done some sort of lifestyle or cleaning up of their environment. So sometimes there might be some extra things that they need to do, but that kind of comes later on in the journey when they have more capacity, and it's kind of like just the quick things at the end to tidy up their environment or lifestyle.
Yeah, I love that. Rather than starting at cleaning out your cupboard to get your health in order,
Yeah.
let's go and fix the root causes.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that, and I've loved our time together too. And for people that are listening, you can head on over if you want to learn more about Filipa and also Chris, her partner, who's also in the Chris and Philly Functional Medicine. Head on over to Chris and Philly, FILLY.FM. But also the book, it's all on the website as well. The Ending Body Burnout book. Great place to start to enter into this world of going, hang on, I could actually do this. I can change this spiral of burnout and fatigue and overwhelm, and I could actually start taking care of myself. But if you're ready to jump in and really get supported through this, then I'll include all of the links at the bottom of in the show notes and on socials to Ending Body Burnout Method, and doors would be open probably right now at the airing of this. But Filipa, thank you so much for sharing your amazing knowledge and wisdom, and for helping us all be a lot healthier. Like it doesn't need to be so overwhelming, does it, looking after ourselves?
It can be easy if you choose it to be.
Thanks so much for your time, and thank you for being here on Distracted. If you have listened to this episode and you know that somebody's really struggling with any of the things we've talked about today, if it's not you, it might be someone you care about, please share this episode with them. People, we know that our health is all really that we have, in terms of it's the thing that gets us through life. It's the thing that helps us turn up and be the very best version of ourselves. So, if not now, when? Let's just take the opportunity now to focus on what's really important to us. And hopefully you found a lot of value out of this episode. I'm Angela Lockwood. Thanks so much for your time.